Rock.
What's great, y'all? I'm Henry Rock Johnson, and you are now tuned in to Rock Radio. I got my brother and my co-host Thrizzle with me. Don't forget the 1-3. Today, we have another steaming hot topic out here in these streets. 50, BMF, the Feud. What's going on with that, man?
Oh my goodness. I really do not understand it. Trying to understand it. I don't like to see black men beefing, but hey, that's what happens.
Well, I know it's something that really touches me close to home because I'm originally from Southwest Detroit.
Mhm.
So growing up in that era when BMF was like popping, man, everybody in the city was eating back then. You know, and I actually was close to a couple of people who were actually involved in that. So being around them, man, all I gotta say is everybody was eating. Back in the early 2000s, when they was around, he was eating, bro.
Interesting enough, as you say that, and when BMF was prominent in Detroit, BMF was definitely prominent back where I'm from too. So there's a lot of stories, unfortunately. Well, those guys are out now, but there was a lot of guys that got jammed up along with that down where I'm from too. So there's actually some influence on both ends now that I actually think about it as you bring it up. So he was very, very influential, like Boosie.
Hey, if you don't know what he talking about, go watch the Vlad interview where Vlad interviewed Boosie about Meech invited him to the Welcome Home concert and stuff like that. That's all. Now it's very funny. Boosie, he like, man, he got me through the pandemic, man.
Oh my
That's all I
goodness.
got to say. He got me through the pandemic.
Boosie.
But I know, like, I was a teenager when they was popping. You know what I'm saying? Like, this was after 50 Boys and all that. So when they was coming up,
Yeah.
I kind of was unaware. But like I said, I done walked into a couple places. Man, I done seen some things. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, though, during that era, everybody was eating it. And like, it seemed like after he got busted, after they started falling apart and stuff like that, that's when the city fell off and then the recession hit.
Interesting.
So it's funny how like those two kind of tied in together. There was more factors into that too, but definitely once BMF kind of tapered off, you kind of saw that the city tapered off as well. So that's why it mattered. That's why BMF mattered to the city. You know what I'm saying? That's because that's how we was eating back then, really. In the streets, it's
Well, sometimes, like, in certain situations, the street money also supplements the community in ways that people don't know. Although it takes, in a way, sometimes that money is redistributed and it's able to uplift people in the hood. I'm not aware of what Meech was doing in Detroit, but I heard like of his actions of what he did in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So if he did it in Atlanta, I know for a fact he was doing it in Detroit
bro,
too.
like I'll say this again, we was eating.
Okay.
We was eating, yeah. So let's talk about 50 role and let's introduce 50 and how he became involved with this whole process. I know he licensed the rights to run the show on his network, and it was a pretty good show. He did a good job, but keeping it as authentic as possible without indicting cats. You know what I'm saying? Like some of those places where they filmed, that's the neighborhoods I grew up with, so I immediately connected at the time. But some of his strategies to stay relevant and to become relevant were questionable to me. It was funny at times, but now I can relate to this again because I grew up in this culture. So now it's getting close to home, and it's kind of like, nah, bro, you kind of sidestepping now. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's cool when you trolling other little industry cats and entertainers, but now you kind of crossing the street line.
Okay.
Because he even started off with how to rob an industry. That was like 2001, 2002, and he's basically talking about how he's going to rob everybody in the industry. So going back to 50 and how he propels himself through beef What are some of the other beefs that you can recall that had his name prominent?
Well, you know, that's the thing about 50. As you talk about him crossing the street lines, I think it's very sensitive. Because it's one thing with Ja Rule, right?
Right.
That was one of his biggest, I think that was one of his biggest beefs or feuds, whatever you want to call it.
A whole platinum album about this man.
I say it was his biggest promo run. That's what I say. I say it's his biggest promo run. And I see that he treats all of these situations as opportunities for promotion. Because he plays by a certain set of rules that he seems to have this fluidity in the corporate and the street ways to where he's able to make moves. He's a lot more business savvy than those that are in the industry like he is. And he's willing to take it far because he's established himself that way. He's able to continue those antics because he started out that way. It kind of looked goofy when other rappers do it because it's not what they do. But it's just like, oh, that's 50 Cent. So
he's a master troll,
right,
at this point.
However, I'm not too fond of the BMF situation. Well, I'm not too fond of the situation with Big Meech because I think it's divisive for us as a culture. Even though it's some street stuff, people respect Meech and what he did. A lot of people get on and they aren't able to make people bosses. The people around them bosses. For a fact, even the people around 50 Cent. Guys, they move, but how often do you see other people, like these bosses, make other people look like bosses? And where else can you find that in the industry?
And if you really look at G-Unit, let's look at G-Unit for example. Did he put anybody else in position to supersede him in a sense? Look what happened to Buck. Buck, he put him on blast. That phone conversation where Buck was crying broke. Mm-hmm. Yayo just got back out on the Vlad interview too. It seemed like they still cool, you know what I'm saying? But what has Tony Yayo done besides B and 50 Shadows? Banks, same thing. They didn't fall out or anything like that, but he didn't put them in position to go forward. And what Meech did and what Meech thrived on was putting people in position so they can eat on their own. He didn't just do that in Detroit. He did that in St. Louis and down here in Atlanta, and they took it out to Cali and all that. So that's the difference between them two. Cause I'm gonna give you you guys a quote that my dad shared with me. And I think this is gonna be relevant to how 50 Cent, when he starts to decline, my dad always taught me, don't kick too much ass on your way up because that's more asses you're gonna have to kick on your way down. So I know eventually his tactics are going to have an ending point, and at some point he either just going to fall off because he's not going to kiss anybody's ass because that's how he is, or I'm saying you just going to see this troll turn into the most humblest and sweetest person in the world trying to kind of mend ends that and rebuild bridges that he burnt on the way back up, and to build the bridges that he burnt staying relevant.
Because burning bridges to stay relevant. I think that's very interesting. But going back to this whole thing, just between them in general, that's why I talk about the respect. Because I'm sitting here thinking in my head, I'm like, man, we talking about Meech. His name travels all throughout the country. Like I said, when you brought up your history of what he did in Detroit, I'm telling you that he had roots all the way down in Florida with people that I know personally, that he was flooding the community and my community was thriving. Although it's street money, even my community was thriving off of something that he started. I ain't never heard 50 have that level of influence. He might have did what he did in New York, but you talking about comparing, nobody owes you the opportunity to make you a boss or put you on. I feel like people get under people and they expect that, but at the same time, you're responsible for doing that. But that's what makes me respect Meech even more, because he had everybody around him looking like a boss, feeling like a boss, which empowered them to step in a certain way. Like you talked about the guys around 50, like inspired. I remember if it was Yayo or if it was, who's the other? Not Banks. Buck. I think it was like Young Buck. I think he was talking about how hard 50 works. I'm cool to watch how hard he works, but like Nobody putting other people on or putting money in their pocket, like having people buying people homes and whatnot, like Meech was. He gave people an opportunity with this movie stuff to make some, well, not movie stuff, the TV shows to make some money. But he still hasn't impacted. I don't think he's impacted nowhere near the amount of lives that Meech did.
And Meech was about getting money at the end of the day. What? No beef, no funny stuff. Anybody on his team, you know, as long as he getting money, you know what I'm saying? He cool with that. It ain't like, oh no, I want to make more money than everybody else. It wasn't none of that. It wasn't no clout chase. You know what I'm saying? Like 50 kind of likes to pick with people in the sense that like his music was only relevant for an amount of time. Soulja Boy do it too. He doesn't do it as bad as he used to. Like Soulja Boy now, he just kind of like silly stuff every once in a while. But 50 just kind of thrive for the fact that he needs a certain amount of attention on himself. And Meech was like that too, to a certain extent. Like Meech was more so on the sense like, oh, come get money with me. 50 is more so like, oh, look at me. Man, like when he beef with Floyd and Rick Ross and stuff like that. So when them two beefs, his music wasn't even relevant. So it was just like he was just clawing for something at those periods when he was beefing with them. Mm-hmm. And then he started locking in with the movies and television and stuff. Mm-hmm. Now that was cool. And
well, I think he's made a great transition. He's made some good business moves because he had the vitamin water. So that was a great deal. The movies and I don't know, what movie did he do? Is it just TV shows?
It's TV shows.
He did do
acting.
He did do a movie. Get Rich or Die Trying, right?
Yeah, that was his movie. But he's also been in a plethora of other movies, like 12.
He's been in movies, yeah.
Think of that one movie where he was a cop. Mm-hmm. That one movie where it's like he had to get real skinny. And if you guys know what I'm talking about, that one where he got real skinny and he was looking like he had cancer or something. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Leave it in the comments below. But yeah, his transition was seamless. You know, he's not one of the greatest actor rappers. He still make a smooth transition, keep himself relevant.
And here's my thing, like even as we're discussing like impact and the influence that Meech had versus what 50 had, it's like 50 made a great transition, but he's also highlighting today's time as in like how we are. So you take like 6ix9ine, where this guy's like big as a rapper, right? And then he comes and he goes and snitches and gets out, and it's like all of hip hop, like the hip hop and rap culture, just like off of the fact that some boy could just come in and make a move like that. And then now we have these situations where legally they switch it up to where your lyrics can now incriminate you. So for years,
that's crazy.
For years, people have been able to say whatever they want, and there was a way for people to make it out so they could tell their stories. And now it's like, yeah, now you can be incriminated with your lyrics. So now it's like you had the situation with Young Thug and the RICO trial and the question of whether or not if Gunna snitched because he got released, and you got Rollo. Everybody's trying to still pull on the street credit stuff, but it don't look that good to be a part of the streets no more.
Yeah, it's definitely a different code of ethics than it was back then, where, you know, snitches get stitches. Still kind of relevant though, because it's like a sigh of relief when people see the paperwork. Like people show their paperwork, it's kind of like, okay. Majority of me doesn't even believe it and knows that it's an entertainment aspect in it, because we ain't seen no paperwork. It's been going on for about 3 weeks to a month now, and still haven't seen paperwork. Also, in my due diligence on the subject, I see a lot of people like, oh, if you don't get the lawyer, you don't get it, you're untrustworthy if you're not on 50's side. It's like, dude ain't showing no paperwork. And like, Little Meech caught in the crossfire, because you can kind of tell in the message that he put up and how 50 put him on blast, and in some of the videos that surfaced of him, he's kind of hurt by this. Like Little Meech seemed like he really looked up to 50. And then 50 is gonna make him pay for his dad's action. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about that.
Well, I think that's some internet-ish, for one. Our ramifications, because of the the landscape that like the industry is in, the streets is in, like Meech is caught in the crossfire because of this media stuff. So the media and social media, the way information is passed along and misinformation is passed along. Misinformation spreads a whole lot quicker than the good information, for one.
Says it in the book of Revelation, though.
So misinformation spreads very quickly. So it's like a lot of negative things that Lil Meech is gonna have to, like, a lot of negativity that he's gonna have to overcome just by this situation alone.
But does he have to pay? First of all, in my case, like, somebody rock with my people, regardless of who he beef with, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't help that Rick Ross made a song about BMF and went to go holler at Big Meech. So what is it about 50 reacting that way? Like, if he knows all of this, I can understand, okay, my man is talking to my big, but like what is me supposed to do? Like, oh, 50 is making this show and I'm beefing with 50. No, you know what I'm saying? He just really got out, like, putting together a concert for him, you know what I'm saying? And he wanted to be a part, and it would have been, that concert would have went up if Rick Ross would have did BMF. You know
so here's what I say. As you bring that point up, that's great. So here's what I say to that. Again, I'm talking about the media. So it's chess. Rick Ross knows what he has going on with 50. In my opinion, because 50 Cent, it's like every time he mentions my name, he did a little, he always do that when he going down a little bit. So obviously they're agitating, they're stirring up, they're starting to fire up again whenever they need to. So Rick Ross is very well aware that 50 took that picture with him, because 50 was like the first person to drop a picture when Meech first came out. 50 Cent was the first person to take a picture and go and support Meech. I heard he gave him 100,000 or something or whatever like that. Cool. However, it's like, how can you expect a man of that, with that level of influence, to not go and receive love from everybody? Now, he might have been caught in the crossfire because Rick Ross knew what he was doing. Rick Ross is very well aware of what he was doing in the move he was trying to make, which ultimately affected Meech. Meech is trying to come out and show love, man. The man been locked up for a minute. Like, he's trying to, like, everybody's showing him love. So it's like, he ain't thinking like, oh, this Rick Ross and 50 Cent beef is deep. He probably ain't even been tuned into that.
Nah.
And it's like, cause he ain't, as far as I know, he was never on no sucker-ish. So therefore, why would he even be aware? Like, he probably moving around and that happened, and now he caught in the crossfire. As I said, I don't like it because it makes the streets, once again, it's kind of like dividing us with our street culture, which then affects our hip hop and rap culture. Now, I do want it to be more positive, and I do want us to stop killing each other, and I do want us to get back to getting money and making each other building
each other up,
and building each other up. I do want us to get back to that. And so it's like, because something like that is happening, that we can kind of think, because I don't know if everybody is looking at it with our viewpoint, like, you know what Meech done, like, if to them papers come, prove it. But then, even with the papers, look at, like, industry is now. Look at how the streets are now. Like, there ain't no code. There ain't no code no more. There ain't no particular ethics. Like everybody, like, you kill somebody, I kill somebody. You kill somebody. It's just a whole lot of killing versus like, hey, let's sit down and understand what the situation is. Because sometimes it's just a small misunderstanding. Probably just like this situation.
Yeah.
Like I said, Meech is, everybody's wanting to show love to Meech and give that man his flowers. Like, you shouldn't, I don't care how much money you gave the man. That man that gave 100,000 and then put 100,000 in people's pockets, I don't know how many times, all over this country. And so to a man like that, how you even tripping that, yeah, you gave him that. That ain't enough to say.
So, like, really what 50 did for Meech and BMF is very minute to what Meech did out here in these streets.
Right, because people, this is entertainment, of course. And first of all, 50 had power. So that was his first run to be able to put our culture on, like, get our type of culture accepted on TV and let somebody black do it, so that it can really be real. Because it's a lot better than a lot of the street stuff that we see in these Hollywood films and whatnot, it's a lot better.
He does have quality work.
Man, it's a whole lot better, and it's so real. So I give him that. So he found out how to do it with Power, and then he got the Power Book 3 and all this. BMF, I think it's dope, but like, great way to go out. With everything that's going on, it's a great way to promote the show and also instill the fear of loss. Because it's like, oh, this is going to be the last season because of all of this stuff happened.
But you know what? His contract with Stars was up too.
Yeah.
I bet he probably did that because it's like, okay, my contract is up and I don't want to produce with Stars anymore. So I'm just going to throw this out there so I ain't got to do it no more.
Interesting. But I also feel like it's like because it could be a way to go out with a bang though. Like, it's the last one. It's like you get a whole bunch of hype around it because 50 uses those tactics. He's like, all notoriety is good notoriety.
Yeah.
That's it. All publicity is good publicity in 50's eyes. He don't care.
Because even with 42 Doug, 42 Doug just went through and gave Meech $100,000. And like, he picking on 42 Doug now, you know what I'm saying? So it's just that any fuel to the fire, he's gonna let it rage. And I bet y'all either he's gonna come out with another season or he's not. I'm good either way. Like, he's gonna use that fuel and cut the show off, or he's gonna use that fuel. I think at this point the show is gonna be cut off. But like, you can't put nothing past him, or he can come with completely different actors and troll the situation. Because like we said earlier, 50 is a great troll, so he could use that. Like, he could just make a mockery of it if he wanted to. But I don't know, with him, like, contract with Stars running out, I know the Kane is supposed to be coming on. I don't know. We gotta see how it plays out.
Yeah, I think he's been with Stars long enough, and he has the people around the producers and directors and whatnot. He has that crew that's essential to make those shows happen. I don't know how instrumental he is in the production of it and the storytelling. I don't know how instrumental he is in that, but it's possible that he can still make it happen without having a company like that.
Yeah, he's been hanging around Tyler Perry.
My experience, because they shot BMF over at the campus, but I didn't hear any word of him coming over at that time. I don't know how often he's on set, but we are improving as a culture with our films. We're improving. What I've noticed, like Hollywood sets, is that there are a bunch of people for every single thing that needs to be done. Maybe like minimum 2 people. You're gonna have like 2 to 5 people for every single thing that needs to be done. People have assistants. There's constant communication going on. I think sometimes with our films, at least with the Black films, we don't have the budget to pay as many people, and so there's not as many details that go into capturing certain shots and certain angles and things like that, because there's constantly, they rehearse shots and then they do the real shots. Sometimes they have to take rehearsals because the rehearsals were better than the regular take, but they're taking like takes of different scenes and stuff. So it's very, but it costs every hour. It costs. It's very, very expensive with production.
Indeed, that's why I think he's hanging out with Tyler Perry, because Tyler Perry has mastered the art of being very, let's say, cost efficient with his productions. So that's gonna be interesting how that turns out. Mm-hmm. So as we kind of wrap things up, what's your final take?
So my final take is that I think they're trying to go out with a bang with BMF. I would love to see it continue. I don't know what other stories there is to tell. I think the most popular stories are him being in Detroit and him being in Atlanta. You mentioned St. Louis.
Because they didn't even do LA. They haven't done LA yet. When they last left off, Meech and T was going to Mexico.
Okay.
They might leave it. They was just like across the border into Mexico, about to go meet a plug or something. They might just leave it like that, just leave it up in the air, kind of like Sopranos.
Well, I think there's another season that's supposed to come out, right? So they'll start off there and probably end up in one of those places, you think? Yeah.
Like you said, we're filming for season 4. So this might be a tactic to build up hype. Yeah. The last and best season ever. It's only entertainment.
It has to be that, because the tomfoolery that has taken place, I'm not sure if it will continue. I think it's just really kind of goofy.
I just need to see your paperwork, bro. I just need to see them. Because if we don't see no paperwork and then just magically in the summertime, season 4 of BMF pops up.
But even with that, though, it's like, is that change? With the state and the climate that the streets is in, as far as like loyalty and the snitching and all of these things, like, will it really matter?
Yeah,
because he made bosses. I mean, sat down and did his time, and the majority of the people associated did not go to jail because he took it on the chin. So,
like a real boss supposed to.
What did he? So in my head, I'm like, he took it on the chin. What was there really to snitch about?
And the question I have: do you really expect a son to go against his father? How realistic are your expectations? How realistic are your expectations supposed to be with that?
Now, interesting enough, you say, do you really expect the son to go against his father? That's a personal problem that 50 has.
Yeah, his relationship with his son
is not that great.
Is rocky.
And then, so it's like, that's more his attitude. But once again, it's can't expect nobody to put yourself on. What we say?
Only you put you on.
Always keep that in mind. Even when you're dealing with somebody that have a way to give you an opportunity that can put you on, you got to put you on. Anybody put you on, that's a privilege. And that's essentially, you know what I'm saying, about Meech. It was a privilege that, like, go around and got to get the overflow. And he putting racks in people's pocket, and he helping people get houses and take care of their families. Like, what it's really about. So
we want to know what you guys think about this hot topic. Leave it in the comments below. Share it, and stay tuned for more Rock Radio. Watch that next episode.